everyone. Thank you for attending. If you're attending live, if not, this is a recording that you and all road warriors and business travelers should listen to and watch and learn. I'm Marcy Rader, lifestyle trainer for road warriors, business travelers, and mobile professionals. If you work more than 60% or 50% of your time out of a typical office, then you, my friend, are a MoPro. For this webinar, I will only have myself on camera, but feel free to add comments or questions in the chat, and I'll do my best to get to them at the end. So just a little bit about me. I have a degree in exercise science and a master's in health promotion, and I've been a certified personal trainer for 20 years. But I fell into the clinical research industry and worked there for 13 years and worked my way up the ladder to a senior corporate trainer and manager. During that time, I was traveled heavily for over a decade, and heavily by being 50 to 75% internationally and domestically. About 6 or 7 years ago, I developed a really strong interest in productivity and started reading every book I could find, which resulted in changing my life, the way I traveled, downsizing my house, and ultimately becoming a certified productivity specialist. When I was traveling on a weekly basis, I saw how the people around me that I was traveling with, they looked really tired, they gained weight, almost like the college freshman 15, there was like the travel 15 that new travelers would gain over the first year. I had a hard time maintaining some of my relationships, and I never seemed to stop working because when I wasn't traveling, I was working from home, and so my office was always with me. It also was hard when I was traveling because I felt, since I was in a cool city on someone else's dime, I really shouldn't take advantage of it, and I should just be working the whole time. So I missed out on a lot of opportunities in the beginning to see the cities and the different places and celebrate the cultures where I was. I found the hardest thing was to eat healthy on the road, especially for conferences and meetings where my food was chosen for me. And I remember one dinner in San Antonio, Texas. It was for a big conference, and it was this long, this buffet, super long, filled with foods. And I was a vegetarian at the time, and there was only one thing on the whole buffet that was vegetarian, and that was the roll. Even the salad had tons of bacon in it, and I think even mayonnaise. But it was always hard for me to eat, and so I figured out a way to make that easier for myself. I also had a hard time when I was at home, because when I was at home, I spent it running around like a chicken with my head cut off, cleaning, running errands, doing laundry, and feeling really rushed because I had to get everything done before I hopped back on the travel treadmill on Monday. And it drove my husband crazy. All he wanted to do was get out of the house, and all I wanted to do was stay home and eat a bowl of cereal or something because I was so tired of eating out. I was constantly on my email and my laptop, and would feel true anxiety that I would miss something if I wasn't checking it 100 times a day. And that's not an exaggeration, because the average person with a smartphone checks 150 times a day. So I managed to figure it out. In the time that I traveled, I completed over 60 endurance and ultra-endurance events. I had a date with my husband every week. We've had one every week for 20 years. Sometimes it's only 20 minutes, and we have to improvise, but if we've been in the same country or state in that week, then we've had a date every 20 years. I also make sure I participate in at least one social event or see a friend at least one time a week as well, even though I'm traveling a lot. I got into a routine at home to help me travel, and a routine when I traveled to help me at home. And I developed systems that allowed me to shut down every night with inbox 0 and my tasks completed, and I've managed to still live that way even though I own my own business. I still have that philosophy. I believe that you can't be healthy without being productive, and you can't be productive without being healthy. And that's why, you know, I combined my certification in personal training and became a certified productivity coach, because I feel like they go together. And when you're on the road, that is magnified. And yes, this is a Heisenberg cup. Is that not the coolest? So last year, I was on, over a year ago, I was on my last 3-week stint as a corporate trainer teaching clinical research associates about their job, which is about 75% travel. And for most of them, they have never traveled before. So it's very new. The second to last day, I gave training modules that I created on travel safety, travel health, and productivity. And the feedback I got was so inspiring about it being the best and most practical training that they had. I knew what I wanted to do with my life. I had climbed as high as I wanted to at this company. I was passionate about what I was teaching because I totally geek out on health and productivity. And I wanted to help other people work well so they could play more. In March this year, I released a book called Hack the Mobile Lifestyle, 6 Steps to Work Well and Play More. And that covers health and productivity and safety and travel hacks in general around air, hotel, auto, mobile office, parties, conferences, and meetings, and home. I have a virtual series based on the book, and this call is a little snippet of what is also in that book and my virtual series. And some of the things I'll cover can be found there, but I'll also be adding in a lot more juicy stuff in my virtual series, which I'll tell you about at the end of the call. Any website or item that I mention on the call, I'll put in the chat box at the end, so you don't have to worry about searching it and while we're talking or while I'm talking, and you can focus on me and the information I'm going to share with you. The reason why I want you to do that is because it's impossible for your brain to listen and read something at the same time. It's trying to go through the same cognitive channel, and it can't be done. So close on all your other tabs, focus on me in order to focus on yourself, because this webinar is for you. Some of the hacks that I'm going to go over may seem really simple and easy, but if they were, then everyone would be doing it, right? And you know, what seems obvious to some people isn't always obvious to everyone else. This is when I realized I should train new travelers, because a lot of the things that I took for granted, they didn't know. But at the same time, there were a lot of things that I learned when I was traveling that I had no idea, because you don't know what you don't know sometimes. For example, and I'm not embarrassed to say it, but I traveled for a good 3 to 4 years before I knew I was supposed to tip housekeeping. I know it's really bad. I just didn't know. We grew up camping. We didn't really stay in hotels that much, and when we did, I don't know if my parents ever tipped housekeeping, but if they did, I never saw it, saw them do it. And the way to tip housekeeping is to put it in an envelope or to wrap it in a blank piece of paper that says housekeeping on it, so that they know that it's for them, because otherwise they could get in trouble for taking cash out. You're also supposed to leave cash and not change, and I didn't realize that either. I would just leave whatever change I had all the time, whether it was $1 or $3, until I learned, no, you're actually supposed to leave cash because change is demeaning. You're also supposed to place that on the TV, pillow, or the bathroom sink. Those types of things never occurred to me. Now, before we get into the 6 steps, starting with the air travel, I want to discuss behavior change a little bit, because I really believe that small steps can make a huge impact, and everything that we do is a process within our brain. All of our habits is a process within our brains. If you've been on any of my other calls, you know I love to geek out on the brains behind the acts. And I believe that 1 to 3 behavior changes at a time are about the max that you can do. It's best if they're unrelated to each other, and that starting out small can make a very big impact. And if you spend 15 minutes a day working on a habit, you've put in 91 hours in a year. That is huge. It's huge. Now, I took 2 years to completely transform my life, and I've been making incremental changes ever since. And when I started the journey, I got a giant whiteboard, and what I would give to have that whiteboard still, but I don't have it. This was I believe 8 years ago maybe. But I listed 100 things that I wanted to change about myself in the areas of health, productivity, and my physical environment. I worked on each small step at 1 step at a time for 4 to 8 weeks. And when it felt like it was a new habit, I moved on to the next one. And they started out very small. Even though I was a vegetarian, I didn't eat very many vegetables. You know, the way I grew up, the only vegetables that we were ever served were corn and potatoes and green beans, which I didn't know until I was an adult wasn't even a vegetable. And corn and potatoes I really don't consider vegetables either. So I was a vegetarian that didn't really know about vegetables. So I started out making sure that I had 1 serving of vegetables a day for a week. And then on week 2, I had 2 servings of vegetables a day. Week 3, I bumped it up to 3 servings, but that was a little bit harder. So I stretched that out for a couple of weeks until, you know, for the last several years, I eat at least 4 to 5 servings a day, but most of the time I get 7 to 9. It's not really an issue for me, and I'm like a veggieholic now. I love vegetables. So, but I did all that just through small behavior change. I set very specific, measurable, and realistic goals with a timeline. And most people don't make goals correctly. They say things like, I want to lose weight. I want to get organized. What does that even mean? It's not specific enough. So, you know, you need to have very specific goals with a timeline. And you always want to start with a win. So you want the goal, whatever goal you choose, to be an easy one for you to achieve. And it sets you up for success and it makes you feel good. I listed all of my whys or my excuses. And I listed all my wins or my resources, my support. Then I created a plan. Why did I need to create a plan? Because a goal without a plan is just a dream. Say again, people. A goal without a plan is just a dream. Now, I signed up with a new client a couple weeks ago, and she currently didn't exercise at all. Her first goal for the week was to do yoga or Pilates for 1 minute a day. Her trigger is as soon as she walks in the hotel room, before she opens up her laptop, turns on CNN, she does 1 minute of yoga or Pilates a day. And you may think, big whoop, what's 1 minute? Well, 1 minute is more than 0. And we're going to bump that up. Already she's up to 3 minutes. And if she traveled for 4 days this week, then she's done 12 minutes more that she wouldn't have done before. And her goal is to get up to doing 15 minutes on a regular basis a day. And we're going to make that easy for her to do. So even if you think that your goal is so small that it sounds ridiculous, as long as it's 1 step up from what you're doing now, it's not, right? Now, I continue to have personal behavior change goals every month, and I hope to never stop this process because I'm never going to be perfect, and I'm always going to learn new things and be constantly growing. And I can't dive deeper into that on a 60-minute call because there's too much to cover, so we'll go right into the overview of the 6 steps. The first area is airport. Let me just check real quick to make sure there's no questions. Okay. Carlson Wagonlit Travel did one of the most extensive travel surveys of over 6,000 travelers. And one of the highest stressors for women, and one of the highest stressors overall, was not being able to eat healthy meals. And this was always one of the hardest for me. I used to be a vegetarian, and back in the early 2000s, sometimes the only vegetarian options in an airport were ATTN's pretzels, Frappuccinos, and frozen yogurt. So sugar and refined carbs that put me in what I call the jack and crash cycle. I get jacked up on sugar and caffeine, and then I crash a couple hours later and I want more. It's gotten better in airports, but it's still really, really lacking. Only 76% of 18 of the busiest airports offer at least one low-fat, high-fiber, cholesterol-free vegetarian entree. And this is not per terminal or gate. This is for the airport. That is really sad. So my hack for you, and my favorite travel app, is iFly Pro. iFly Pro is $4.99, but worth a lot more. It gives a ton of information about the airport in general, over 10,000 actually, but what I love the most is that it lists all the restaurants and amenities by terminal so you can plan where you're going to eat. Now, if I lost you already because I used the word plan, just remember, if your goal is to eat healthy in an airport, you have to plan for it, especially in an airport. But iFly makes it totally easy peasy, and you're going to be able to see, what is going to be available to you. How many times have you settled for McDonald's or some yuck meal when 200 feet down the terminal is a restaurant with choices that are actually good for you? That used to drive me crazy. Or I would pass restaurants thinking, I'll just wait till I get to my gate. And then I'd get to my gate and all the restaurants would be awful. And then I wouldn't have time to go back and see what the other ones were. With iFly, I can just check and see what is going to be available to me and where it's going to be. And I can do this even on the plane because it works offline, which is even better. So you can check it in airplane mode. It also helped me to know if there was going to be nothing for me to eat at that airport. I used to have clients in Sarasota and Birmingham that I would have to go to a lot, and a couple of years ago. And there was nothing for me to eat there. So I would have to stop at I stopped at a grocery store on the way to the airport, or a restaurant on the way to the airport, and would get my whatever meal I needed to have there. There's also a Love It button on that iFly app, and the Love It button is so you can kind of mark and remember what restaurant or amenity it is that you use and that you liked. I often flew in and out of the same airport, so this is a great feature to remember, oh yeah, I liked this restaurant here. Besides the food part, iFly also covers all the parking, the grounds transportation. It has detailed maps of the airports, gate amenities, airline information, flight status, and flyer forums. And they also have a really cool blog and a blog series, and one of the last ones was called From the Cockpit, and it's really cool. I learned a lot by reading those. It was interesting to see what's going on and what's being thought of behind that door that we can't get into. But it can save you a ton of time, and it's well worth the $4.99. I reference them in my book, and also my free video series, 6 Steps to Work Well and Play More. And because of a webinar I did earlier in the week, they've asked me to do a guest series. but I want you to know that I'm not paid by them, and I bought my own app myself. So this is all genuine, sincere. I think iFlight is a rockin' app. Love it, especially if you want to be healthy and productive on the road. Now, airlines covers at least an hour in the virtual series, but we need to move on, so we're going to talk about hotel. I have a video in my free video series about hotel hygiene and what to do when you first enter a hotel, and if you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend it. And just so you know, do not ever, ever, ever use the hotel coffee pot. All right. So traveling should never be an excuse not to exercise. I usually try to exercise outdoors, but you know, winter or when it's really dark, or when it's dark or unsafe areas, you know, I would have to use the have to exercise indoors. So when I was booking my hotel, I always filtered by whether it had a fitness center, and then I would look at the photos to see if it looked like it was from 1982. If I was going to be there for more than a couple days and I knew I'd have to use the gym, then I would even call the hotel and ask them, does your equipment work? Because a lot of times the photo's old and you get there and it doesn't even work. If you're a real gym junkie, and there isn't anything wrong with that, and the hotel fitness center is subpar, ask at the front desk if they'll give you a pass to a local gym. I stayed at a Hyatt Place in Mira Mesa last year, and their fitness center was going to be renovated, but not while I was there. And what it included was like 3 sets of weights, a rickety Stairmaster, and a bike that squeaked. It was awful, and I was there for over 3 weeks. That would not do. And so I asked at the desk, do you have any kind of relationship with a gym nearby? And I ended up getting 7 days of passes to one of the best gyms in San Diego, and it was awesome. And all I did was ask. So just ask. You know, one of my favorite places that I used to travel for one of my contracts was to Plano, Texas. People would say, what? Your favorite place to travel was Plano, Texas? Yes, it was, because the hotel, I think it was a Homewood Suites, didn't have a fitness center. So instead, you got passes to a 24-hour fitness center. The brand 24-hour fitness, it was awesome. I had pool, and I was doing Ironmans at that time, so I had pool, and I had, you know, anything that I wanted at any time I wanted, and it was great. So just ask. But most of the time, I didn't even use the fitness center. I just worked out in my room. And I traveled with a SmartCore grid, which is made by Trigger Point Therapy, and I call this the Fountain of Youth right here. Self-myofascial release is so good for your body, and or foam rolling. Some people will just use the generic term foam rolling, but the Trigger Point, the grid is better because it has this hollow core, so it doesn't break down, and it also, this would fit in my carry-on, and I would just stuff my workout clothes in there. But I could do self-myofascial release and core work using that grid, and I love it, and I'll put the link in the chat section. I also packed bands and would use those as well as do body weight workouts in my room, and I have I believe at least 10 different body weight workouts on my website, marcyrader.com, that you can do in a small space in your underwear. Because that's another thing. If you use the excuse, I don't want to take up any more room in my luggage, what space? Because your underwear is something you're already wearing, and for a woman, you need a sports bra, but that's it. Lots of times I just worked out in my room, in my sports bra, and in my underwear. You do not have an excuse of, I don't have room for shoes, to get a good workout. You know, most of the time I took my shoes and I went and ran and did something else, but for my strength training and my flexibility work, I always did it in my room, in my underwear, and my sports bra. Now, the bands, you know, when I used to travel with bands, I've used a ton of bands over the last 20 years, and eventually they'd break down and they'd wear out, and sometimes they'd break. And I was so fortunate to find a company when I first went into business called Rubber Bandits, right here, Rubber Bandits, and I created a kit called the Jet Setter, and it's for business travelers and mobile professionals. Of course, anybody can use it, but it's 85 pounds of resistance in a 14-ounce bag. And my favorite part, you get two red bands like this, and you get some hand grips, but my favorite part is it has this door stop. So you can put this in the door, you just shut the door on it, and then you can do your exercises with the band, and this band comes out, so it can even be the stronger band. But this is awesome. You can do so much just by having this little door stop. And so, packing this up, even if you didn't want to take the whole bag, I mean, look at that little ball. So you can get a good workout in with just this. And a lot of times I'll run with this, or I'll take clients on a workout with this in my pocket, and then I'll whip it out at different times and wrap it around a tree or something like that. But I love the Jet Setter kit, and that's at jetsettergymkit.com, and I will put that in the chat as well. So moving on, let me make sure that there aren't any questions. Okay. Auto is step 3. How many of you have forgotten where you parked your car, your rental car, or even what rental car you were driving? I know at least 3 different people, personally I know them, who got into the wrong rental car, and I am not talking about when they picked up their rental car, they got in the wrong one. I'm talking about at the hotel the next morning. The key worked. Either the key worked or the valet gave them the wrong car, and they didn't even notice because they didn't remember what kind of car they had the night before. All of them were able to get it straightened out eventually, but none of them noticed until at least they've been driving 30 minutes. But one woman had got her car in San Diego and was going to drop it off in LA and see a couple clients along the way. Well, she realized on her way to LA that it was the wrong car. She saw a water bottle down on the floor of the passenger seat and thought, well, I don't have a water. I didn't get a water. And then she looked in the back seat, and there was another woman's coat. So she spent over an hour on the phone with the hotel and the car rental agency trying to figure out, what to do and where this other woman was with her car. In the end, she had to go back to the hotel in San Diego, switch cars with that woman, and then drive to LA, and her car had missed her flight, and that woman also missed her flight and will probably not be friending her on Facebook because she was not happy. So what I do is I take a photo of the car. When I get when I pick it up at the rental counter, I take a photo with the license plate. Most people have smartphones now. You can just delete it when that trip is over. But if it's late or dark and I'm on my second or third car of the week, I'm almost guaranteed not to remember what it was that I picked up. Even if it's the first car of the week, I probably won't remember which car I picked up. And most rental cars are very nondescript, and they tend to be the same types of cars, and tend to be like the same types of colors and everything. So taking a photo of the car and the license plate can be super helpful. I also always walk around the car to make sure that there aren't any scratches or dings in it, and a lot of people skip this because they don't have the extra 30 seconds. But I had 2 staff members in a 6-month period that were accused of scratching the rental car, and they said I didn't do it, and it's your word against theirs. And so checking that car, and if you do see scratches, telling them at the rental car agency, but also taking a picture. And if you use an app like Evernote, then it's timestamps that photo, and it also has the location of where you took it. So then you also have extra proof. A hotel hack is to also take a photo of your room number while you're staying there, because I have forgotten what room number even I was staying on, and in my book you'll see the hell that Hilton put me through in Philadelphia because I couldn't remember my room number. But when you're done, you can just delete it. Now, the fourth hack is mobile office, and I do an entire workshop on office productivity, and I can spend 2 hours just on email processing because there's so much that you can do to be better at email. This takes up about 2 classes of the virtual series, the mobile office part, and we still won't cover everything. So I'm just really going to give you a snippet and a hack that will increase your productivity immediately, and that is turn off your notifications. Turn off my notifications, oh my God. Yes, turn them off. There is absolutely no reason, unless your job has the title social media in it, that you need to be alerted immediately if someone has liked your post or retweeted what you had for lunch. I own a business, and probably 75% of the people that find me, maybe even more, find me through social media, and I don't even have an app on my phone. And I only spend 25 minutes a day on social media, and that's it. But I don't have any notifications on my phone or on my computer. There are two kinds of attention. There's involuntary and there's voluntary. Voluntary is your ability to focus on me. Come back, focus on me. And focus on me to focus on you. But voluntary attention is your ability to focus. Involuntary attention are sirens, dogs barking, flashing lights, loud noises, and rings, pings, buzzes, pop-ups. Those are things we can't ignore. You may think that you're able to ignore them, but you're not. Your brain needs to be cognizant of them because it's involuntary and it triggers that fight or flight. You know, if you hear a siren coming up, you need to be able to hear a siren. You know, if your baby's crying, you need to be able to hear your baby crying. So that's part of that involuntary and voluntary. So every time a notification comes through, it interrupts your focus and it distracts your brain. And research shows that it takes approximately 15 to 25 minutes to refocus. 15 to 25 minutes, and the more complicated the task, the longer it takes to refocus. So if you're constantly being interrupted, you're virtually never focused. If we had more time, I could go into the science behind this, but trust me on this one. You can Google it, I promise it. You know, you should also turn off your notifications for your email on your phone and your laptop, because what good is it for you to know that you got an email while you're responding to another email? You can't do both of those things at once. So all it's doing is distracting you from the email that you are currently trying to read or respond or task to. Anyone that thinks that they're a great multitasker is fooling themselves, and they're living in the 90s. You know, companies that still put that as a job requirement, great multitasker, you know, they need to get with the future, the now, because multitasking is a myth. Dave Crenshaw said it best. Multitasking is a myth. So turn it off. And at a minimum, start by maybe just turning off Twitter on your phone for the first week. And maybe the next week you turn off Google+. And the next week, Facebook on your phone. Just the notifications. Doesn't mean you can't go in there. It just means the pop-ups. And then maybe the next week go into your email. The next step is parties, conferences, and meetings, and I'm going to talk about it in the area of meals. This is another whole webinar in itself, but one of the biggest mistakes business travelers make when it comes to meals, in my opinion and experience, is eating every meal like they're on vacation. Eating every meal like they're on vacation or they're out for dinner. And what I mean by out for dinner is, when you're at home, you probably don't have an appetizer, a giant plate of food, enough for 3 people, and then a dessert and drinks. No. You have something reasonable, probably most of the time. So business travelers, especially new business travelers, will eat their meals like they're on vacation or out for dinner. When you're at an all-day conference and you're fed breakfast, morning snack, lunch buffet, afternoon snack, drinks before dinner, and maybe even drinks after, you're now in a food coma, and all you've done is sit on your ass that day at this meeting. If you have a 3-day meeting, then you're basically on vacation but sitting on your ass for 3 days, and that's not good for you. Just because you're on a per diem, and this is another issue with business travelers with eating like they're on vacation or out for dinner, is they'll try to eat their per diem. Or do you try to eat your per diem? Because I used to try to eat my per diem all the time. But you're not really sticking it to your employer by eating the full $75 a day or $50 a day or whatever it is that you get. You're really just sticking it to your own ass as it gets bigger, because you're trying to spend every last cent by going to the orange grove and getting trail mix to take home or something, which isn't actually bad to get something to take home. But if you're eating everything that day, it would be like eating your free breakfast buffet at the DoubleTree. Then you buy lunch and you buy Starbucks, and then you end at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse at the end of the day with an appetizer, an entree, dessert, and maybe even something to drink. If you get $75 a day, there's no requirement to spend it all. But if you get $75 a day, there's also no reason why you can't get a healthy meal, because you have plenty of money to spend. Now, on the flip side, there are people who get an allotment that they can keep whatever they don't spend. And I've seen people starve themselves to keep as much of their allotment as they can. And I didn't used to starve myself when I worked for a company like this, but I did pay closer attention to what I would eat. And I would eat at grocery stores a lot, or I would eat at less expensive places so that I could use my money to do other things. But I know a guy that he would practically starve himself because he wanted to redo his bathroom. And so all of his extra money he used to redo his bathroom, but at the expense of what? At the expense of being hungry and cranky and hangry all the time when he worked. So going to the grocery, going to less expensive places, those are always an option. When I used to go to Florida a lot for work, I would go to Publix all the time to get my meals. And I could eat, there's lots of things you can get at a grocery that you can make in your hotel room. You don't have to go out all the time. And it's funny that people forget what a grocery store is when they're traveling for business. It's almost like a grocery is only when you're at home and not when you're traveling for business. For me, I preferred to go to the grocery, and if I was anywhere near an Earth Fare or a Whole Foods or Trader Joe's, it was even better because they have amazing salad bars and buffets and things like that. So the last thing that we have is home. And during the home section, I dive into several different areas: clutter, relationships, prepping to leave home, steps when you come back. But since we only have time for one, I'll tell you the one that I love that has saved me a lot of time and is also a relationship builder, and that is send out cards. Send out cards can be ordered online and mailed out anytime, anywhere. Some people don't like it because it's not a personalized signature in ink, but it is a giant leap above an e-card. And you can't personalize a Hallmark card. with your own photo. If you can, I don't know how you do it. But with send-out cards, I rarely send generic send-out cards. They're typically photos that I've uploaded of my family, my friends, pictures of us together, pictures of my client. I've done before and after of offices that I've helped organize. I have done before and afters of people's inbox where they routinely had like 5,000 emails, and after coaching with me, they rarely had more than 10 at a time in their inbox. And so this is just a huge time saver. You can create them as you're thinking about it. You can even sit down and schedule out an entire year of birthdays, anniversaries, client referral, client relationship type things, whatever you want. I send them to clients all the time as reminders or renewals and for referrals. And I just really have fun sending them. And the chances that my card is going to stay on their refrigerator or, stuck to the side of their desk or to a bulletin board if they're a client means a lot more to me than the $4 card that I got them at the Hudson's that they're going to look at, maybe put on their desk for a week and then toss it in the can. It's super cheap. You can pay as you go, or for less than $10 a month, you can send 20 cards or 40 postcards, and that is super, super cheap. And it just goes through the U.S. Postal Service, so it's just the cost of a stamp in addition. I hope you have learned a few hacks today and got some good starting info as a business traveler. And now I want to let you know about some of the special offers. On May 20th, I'll be starting a 6-week group coaching virtual series that will consist of 1 hour weekly webinar that will be recorded so that you can watch it from whenever or wherever you are as much as you want to. And you'll have live access to me, Q&A. You will get invitation to a private group. You will also get a 30-minute private coaching session during the series that we can discuss your individual needs. And each week we cover one of the 6 steps: airline, hotel, mobile office, auto, parties, conference meetings, and home. And it doesn't matter if you can't attend the webinar, you can always watch it later. You'll receive e-handouts and also be invited to other calls that I might be doing during that 6-week session. So the investment for the 6-week series is $299, and I already know one person who actually got their boss to pay for it to make them a healthier and productive traveler on the road, which is really a great idea. So if you want to stop being tired of being tired, overwhelmed with your inbox, and have more energy by working healthier and smarter, then you will want to sign up for my 6-week virtual series called Hack the Mobile Lifestyle 6 Weeks. Now, my special bonus right now that's going on is the first 5 people to sign up, and we're almost there, but the first 5 people to sign up will get an additional 30-minute coaching session with me. So you won't just get one, you'll get 2 30-minute private coaching sessions, and this is a value of $75. For a $300 or $299 virtual series is pretty good percentage. So to enroll or to sign up for the webinar, you can go to marcyrader.com, MARCEYRADER, and it's under events, and you'll see my virtual series there. And I'll also put it in the chat function along with the other links as well. So thank you for watching my webinar. High five and fist bump. And I hope to see you on the other side.